2009. Somewhere in the world, machines began destroying themselves. Engineers checked the data. Everything was normal. So which one was lying? There was no declaration, no explosion, no warning. If a weapon can hide inside software, and a war can exist without being acknowledged, how do you know when it's already happening? For thousands of years, the logic of war remained unchanged. One side attacked, the other defended. Everyone knew when it started. Wars had beginnings. Pearl Harbor, the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the invasion of Poland. Physical targets required physical force, and physical force left evidence. You couldn't hide a nuclear launch or pretend an invasion never happened. Intelligence agencies could track movements, follow money, intercept communications. Attribution was difficult, but possible. Even when wars were secret, they were still physical. That world ended, and most people never noticed when it happened. In Iran, in the late 2000s, engineers at the Natanz facility began to notice something strange. They saw machines spike past safe limits, slow down, then spike again. No clear pattern. They checked for defects, swapped parts, reviewed logs, and questioned operators. The failures continued, so they tested the control systems, the PLCs that governed the centrifuges. Every test looked normal, speed normal, vibration acceptable, pressure stable. But the centrifuges still destroyed themselves. They trusted the data. Siemens controllers are reliable, proven, used worldwide. But reality disagreed. The machines said everything was fine. The machines were lying. In June 2010, a security researcher in Belarus named Sergei Ulasen was investigating computer crashes for a client when he found something unusual, a piece of code that didn't behave like typical malware. It wasn't stealing passwords, sending spam, or asking for ransom. It was just there, doing something he couldn't identify. When researchers analyzed what became known as Stuxnet, they discovered it exploited 4 zero-day vulnerabilities, flaws in software unknown even to its creators. Finding one is rare. Finding 4 suggested capabilities that didn't exist outside of intelligence agencies. But Stuxnet wasn't designed to attack computers broadly. It was searching for Siemens Step 7 software used in industrial control systems, specifically a configuration used in facilities that enriched uranium. When it found its target, Stuxnet intercepted commands being sent to the centrifuges and altered them, making them spin faster, then slower, then faster again. Variations designed to stress the machines beyond their tolerances. And while it did this, it fed false data back to the monitoring systems. The engineers saw the usual centrifuge data, while the machines received emergency commands. It wasn't random malware. She waited, checked, and launched under ideal conditions. Think carefully about what this means. The engineers at Natanz did not know they were under attack. The failures looked like equipment problems, and there was no explosion to investigate, no saboteur to capture, no moment where war began. There was no battlefield. There was no enemy to point at. There was no declaration to reference. Before Stuxnet, attacking critical infrastructure required physical access, and that presence created risk of detection, capture, attribution. Stuxnet eliminated that risk by being delivered remotely and spreading silently until it reached the exact configuration it was designed to destroy. The data spoofing prevented detection by showing engineers what they expected to see, while the actual machinery received entirely different commands. Stuxnet weaponized that reliance, but the most profound change wasn't technical, it was strategic. After Stuxnet, war no longer needed to be acknowledged to exist. Stuxnet shattered that certainty. Researchers concluded it was likely built by the US and Israel, though neither confirmed it. And that's the point. An attack can now be devastating, undeniable, and completely unattributable. You can destroy infrastructure without your victim knowing who to retaliate against. How do you escalate against an enemy who won't admit they struck first? The rules that governed conflict for centuries stopped working, and no one wrote new ones. Once Stuxnet was discovered, researchers around the world began analyzing it line by line, documenting its structure, publishing papers, giving presentations. This wasn't reckless. This was their job. But warnings also function as instructions. The techniques became public. 0 days, PLC targeting, conditional triggers, data spoofing. Within months, variants began appearing. Duke, Flame, Havex, malware targeting energy companies, financial institutions, transportation networks. The sophistication varied, but the core insight remained the same. Critical infrastructure could be attacked remotely. Physical damage could be caused by code, and attribution could be avoided. The most dangerous part of Stuxnet wasn't what it destroyed, it was what it demonstrated. Governments knew at once, if Stuxnet destroyed centrifuges, it could destroy any software-run system. The United States had established Cyber Command in 2009, and other nations followed. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Israel, the United Kingdom, France. Every major power now has dedicated cyber warfare units, not just defensive, but offensive. Infrastructure once considered civilian was reclassified as military strategic. Power plants, communication satellites, financial networks. Software vulnerabilities became assets, with intelligence agencies stockpiling 0 days because a vulnerability that only you know about is a weapon. Security budgets exploded for governments, corporations, utilities, because everyone understood that the battlefield had expanded to include every system connected to a network. Once the rules changed, everyone adapted. No international treaties have been signed, and no summits have been held to establish norms. The world simply accepted that conflict had evolved and moved on. Today, every system that runs on software is a potential target. Power grids, water treatment facilities, hospitals, transportation networks. All of them are battlefields now. Wars are being fought right now that have no front lines, no soldiers, no uniforms, no flags, just code written in offices and deployed from keyboards. Attacks happen daily that will never make the news, and even when they are detected, attribution remains nearly impossible. Stuxnet didn't just destroy centrifuges, it destroyed the assumption that war required visibility, the idea that attacks required acknowledgement, the certainty that deterrence was possible. And it did all of this quietly, with no announcement, no leader declaring a new era, no treaty marking the transition. There was no announcement, no treaty, no warning, just a virus, and a world that quietly agreed to move on.